Have you ever felt like you're facing a challenge that's so big it just feels like the end of the world? Well, today, we're going to dive into a powerful story that suggests our greatest challenges might just be hiding our biggest opportunities. Let's explore how a moment of total desperation can actually lead to a brand new life.
This quote, it really just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It's the perfect way to introduce our main character, a young man named Vishal. You can almost feel that inner tug of war. He's got these huge ambitions, but at the same time, he's just tangled up in self-doubt, caught between the person he wants to be and the person he's afraid he'll never become.
So yeah, this is where it all kicks off. Vishal's dreaming of starting a business, creating content, seeing the world, all the big stuff. But he was just stuck, completely paralyzed by that little voice in his head telling him he wasn't good enough, that he didn't have what it takes.
So what does he do? Well, to avoid the risk of failing, he plays it safe. He takes everyone else's advice and joins the merchant navy. I mean, sure, it offered a steady paycheck and some travel, but it came with a huge price. A lonely, unfulfilling life that felt totally disconnected from who he really was.
He was settling into this quiet life of compromise. But life, as it often does, had a much more dramatic plan in store for him. One night, sailing somewhere between Indonesia and Australia, everything, and I mean everything, changed in a heartbeat.
So, the ship goes down, and somehow, miraculously, he survives. But his first reaction isn't relief. It's just pure, soul-crushing despair. You can just imagine it. He's lost, he's abandoned, and he is absolutely terrified.
He just screams this out into the empty air, It's a question so many of us can relate to when things fall apart. He just couldn't wrap his head around why his life, a life he tried to live so carefully, had taken such a sudden, brutal turn.
And just as he's about to completely give up, to let go of all hope, something appears. A tiny glimmer of a chance, in the most unbelievable way you could possibly imagine.
He finds this old wooden box washed up on the shore, and inside, it's not gold, not jewels, but something so much more valuable. A notebook, a survival guide left by someone who'd been stranded there before. This book becomes his teacher, his accidental apprenticeship in the art of staying alive. And this guide was all business. No philosophy, just hardcore practical skills. Through what the source calls painful practice, he started learning, one grueling step at a time. And with every little win, getting water, catching a fish, making fire, that self-belief he'd lost started to slowly but surely grow back. This is where you see the real shift, right? He learned that to survive, he had to build what's called a portfolio life. He couldn't be that old dependent kid anymore. He had to become new things, a fisherman, a builder, and most importantly, a survivor, just to adapt to his new world. So, he's adapting, he's getting stronger, and he's even starting to feel a little bit of pride in what he can do. But of course, just when he thinks he's finally got a handle on things, life decides to test him one last time, pushing him to his absolute breaking point. An earthquake, and then a huge wave. And just like that, everything he had worked so hard for, his shelter, his little slice of security, is just wiped out, gone. He's thrown right back into that dark place of total despair. But here's the thing. This time, it was different. After the anger and the grief passed, this new voice rose up from inside him. This was a pivot point. The disaster didn't break him. It actually remade him. He realized the house might be gone, but the skills he learned to build it, they were his forever.
And just as that new confidence is taking hold, the universe throws one last punch. A lightning bolt hits the only coconut tree left on the island, his only source of food and water. This felt final. He took it as a sign he was meant to die there, and he just cried himself to sleep.
But that moment of absolute complete defeat, well, it would lead directly to the most powerful and unexpected twist in this whole story. He wakes up to the impossible sound of a ship's horn. Can you imagine? He's overjoyed, he's ecstatic, but he's also totally confused. A signal? What signal? So Vishal says, "I didn't send any signal." And the captain tells him that they saw this massive fire burning on the island the night before. They figured someone was stranded and came to check it out. And that's when it all clicks. The moment of his greatest despair, the lightning strike that he thought was his final curse, was actually his salvation. The fire from that burning tree was the very signal that led to his rescue. Incredible.
So when Michel returned to the world, he wasn't the same person who had left, not even close. He was completely transformed. And his harrowing journey gives us this incredible framework of lessons that, honestly, we can all learn from.
He became this confident, fearless person. And you know all those things he used to dream about? Writing a book, starting a business, creating content? He did it. He did it all. He had found his magnum opus, his great work, his purpose, not in spite of what happened to him, but because of it.
So, what's the takeaway for us? Well, his journey really boils down to these 7 clear lessons. It's a roadmap, really. From listening to the clues life gives you and finding mentors where you least expect them, to leaning into discomfort and embracing those big pivot points. It's all about how to turn your biggest struggles into your life's greatest work. And that leaves us with this one last thought. Just take a second and think about the biggest challenge you're facing in your life right now. What if it's not there to stop you? What if, just like Vishal's lightning strike, it's actually the signal, pointing you exactly where you're meant to go?